All right, good morning. Committee on Parole is called to order. Today is Monday, July 8th, 2024. The time is 8 a.m. Could I get a roll call, please?
Darryl Johnson,
Present.
Pete Freeman,
Yes, here.
Danny Barros,
Here.
Chuck Tibbetts,
Here.
Steve Freeman.
Here.
Okay, and we are a 5-member panel today. My name is Cheryl Renatza, serving as chairman today. With the staff here at DOC headquarters, please introduce yourself for the record.
Jesse Thompson, Sherelle, Parole Williams,
Francis Adam.
All right, and our first remote location this morning is at David Wade Correctional Center. With the staff there at Wade, please introduce yourself for the record.
Morning, Michelle Dozot, Warden.
Becky Trupiano, Kristen Harper, Classification, Helen Turner, ARDC Manager.
All right, thank you. Thanks for accommodating us this morning. And we have before us Mr. Gaddy. Good morning, sir. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
My name's REGAN GATTI. My DOC number is 375608.
All right, Mr. Gaddy. You are represented by Counsel, who is here with us in Baton Rouge. I'd like to ask your counsel to please introduce yourself for the record, sir.
Record Eric Johnson, 415 Main Street, Minden, Louisiana, 7155, appearing on behalf of Mr.
I
Gaddy.
can understand them.
Can you hear us okay?
It's getting a little bit better, but it kind of I'm having trouble hearing.
All right, well, that was Mr. Johnson, your attorney, who introduced himself for the record. Mr. Gaddy, I'm going to read some identifying information into the record. I'm going to ask you to confirm that information, and then we'll turn it over to you and your attorney to present your case. We'll hear from the warden, and then if we have any questions, Mr. Byra will be taking the lead on the interview questions. At the end, you can wrap it up for us if you'd like with a final statement before we vote.
Okay, I understand. Thank
Heard
you.
all that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Mr. Gaddy, you are classified as a second felony offender. You're currently serving a 123-year sentence, having been sentenced in Bossier Parish in March of 2004 for attempted aggravated burglary, unauthorized entry of an inhabited dwelling, attempted second-degree murder, aggravated burglary, and aggravated flight from an officer. You have a parole eligibility date, July 21st, 2023, and your adjusted good time release date is March 10th, 2105. Is that information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Johnson, would you like Mr. Gaddy to make his statement first, or would you like to do your presentation?
Please the board, I'd let Mr. Gaddy go first.
Okay. Mr. Gaddy, would you like to tell the board anything? Would you like to tell us why you think you should be given a favorable decision today?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to say something. First, I'd like to say how sorry I am to all of the victims of my crimes that I committed during the course of the robbery in 2003, and how sorry I am for all of the negative effects that people suffered because of my actions. The direct victims of my crimes, the people named in the indictment, they suffered the worst because of my actions. I can only imagine how hard it was for them to go through all of the terrible things that I put them through. And I hope that one day that they can recover from everything that I've caused them. I've also like to say that my family has gone through a tremendous amount of pain because of my actions. And they're all good people. They go out of their way to do the right thing, and they in no way deserve the shame and the dishonor that I put them through because of what I've done. There's nothing that I can say or do to make up for what I put the victims through and my family and all the pain that I've caused. But I have tried very hard during my time incarcerated to stay positive and progress and help others and improve myself. since being in prison, I've taken the ministry and theology courses, and I became inmate minister. And in that capacity, I was able to help other people with their problems. I did most of my time. Do I have to talk this loud?
Yeah,
I can
I
hear.
can hear you.
I did most of my time at Angola, and there I was part of the reentry program. I was a mentor in several of the different schools, and I tried real hard there to help people learn a skill so that when they go back to society, they can support themselves by legitimate means. I spent my time in prison trying to do productive things. I helped build the Guadalupe Chapel, and I helped build the new Bible college. I served as set director for the Life of Jesus Christ play, and I worked in the toy shop to refurbish bicycles for underprivileged children at Christmas time. I know that none of my prison accomplishments could ever make up for what I've done or what I've done to the victims, but I think they accurately reflect how I've spent my time and what I think is important. And they kind of show my struggle to improve myself while in prison. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, sir. Mr. Johnson.
Honorable members of the board, it's rare, in fact, I can't think of an instance for today where I had not one, but two former wardens of the Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola, Warden Kane, who now heads up the Mississippi Department of Corrections, and then also former Warden DARRYLL E, who wrote a character reference letter on behalf of the individual I'm representing at the board hearing. But those letters are in the packet of materials that furnished to y'all. And along with other letters that were written by inmates whom Mr. Gaddy mentored and taught skill sets to while at Angola, and also he's been doing the same thing with David Wade. When I'm done, I would ask the board to ask Warden Dozat for her input. She's worked with Wade, first under Warden Gary Goodwin, who's retired now. But I think she knows Mr. Gaddy enough to be able to give the board her thoughts on whether the board should grant parole. Obviously, the crime that he was party to was a horrific event. I know Sheriff Prater remembers it well because it happened in his jurisdiction, or it started in his jurisdiction, and it ended in Bossier Parish. And it was of such a nature that not only was Mr. Gaddy and his Confederates who committed the armored car robbery with him in Shreveport and then fled into Bossier in a high-speed pursuit where gunshots were exchanged. There was a police officer in pursuit, was wounded in his arm, thank God, and not somewhere where he would have had a life-threatening wound. But it was a horrific event. And then they went into a neighborhood and did a lot of trying to evade police in that neighborhood, and they encountered a lot of citizens, law-abiding citizens in that subdivision that, again, as Mr. Gaddy referenced, will live with the events of that day for the rest of their lives. So I don't come before the board to in any way soft pedal the nature of the crimes that Mr. Gaddy served in time. They were terrible crimes, no excuse for his conduct. However, once he was sentenced to DOC custody, he literally did everything humanly possible on his end to try to make up for the crimes that he committed that day. And DOC's mission statement is to incarcerate individuals that judges give prison time to. That's part of it. The other part is to provide individuals and inmates incarcerated in DOC the opportunity to learn skill sets that they can use when they get back out into society. Mr. Gaddy not only did that, I've got a stack of inch thick of certifications as a mechanic, which Warden Kane told me when we communicated about this, and one of the best mechanics he ever seen in Angola. But he did everything possible on his end to improve himself and also to help and mentor other inmates and teach them the same skill sets. He has some letters as part of that package from at least one of those inmates, Bobby Jaggers, from the board back in October of last year, granted parole due after a commutation from the governor on his sentences that he was serving. David Wade, he writes a letter in support of Mr. Gaddy, and again, he's a success story to his board. When the board paroled him, granted him parole, he got released. He went to Mississippi. He's doing fine. He actually stopped by my office in Minden. He was in town to visit family and thanked me for helping him get back to a normal life. And that's possible for inmates like Mr. Jaggers and like Mr. Gaddy. Now, in Mr. Gaddy's situation, which is a kind of an unusual situation for me, usually when I'm here before board members, I'm asking you to grant inmate parole so he can be placed back into society. That's not going to happen to Mr. Gaddy if you grant him parole here today. If you grant Mr. Gaddy parole, he's going to go directly from DOC custody with the state of Louisiana to Federal Bureau of Prison custody. He's got a 43-year, 9-month federal prison sentence that is stacked on top of this state time. He doesn't get any credit for any time served on this time on that federal sentence. That's the way the Federal Bureau of Prison works. Does the state sentence first, and then he starts his federal sentence. So he hadn't even started the 43 years and 9 months, and he's got to serve 85% of it in the federal system. There's no parole in the federal system. When he gets there, he's got to do, by my math, 35 years of that sentence, which is 85% of 43 and 9 months before he gets out. He'd be 83 years old by the time he gets released from federal custody, if he lives that long. And essentially, if you grant him parole here today, which again, I'd ask you to do that in light of the package of materials that you have, the recommendations of 2 former wardens at the state penitentiary in Angola on his behalf. If you were paroling him back into society, I would ask you to parole him. Certainly, if you parole him here today and he goes to federal custody for 35 years or 43 years and change sentence, you save the state hundreds of thousands of dollars of expense in housing that would be taken up by the federal government. Money that would be used to help law enforcement officers, school teachers, firefighters, what have you, rather than pay to continue to house Mr. Gaddy in the State Department of Corrections. There's also in your packet materials reference to an incident which I won't go into, but I think that's something also that the board should consider. It's referenced in the Warden Benoit's letter to the board and some other letters that are right behind Warden Benoit's letter. All in all, I think that Mr. Gaddy has done everything he could do after being placed in custody at the end of this incident and tried and convicted in state court first and in federal court after to try to make amends for what he did. And I ask the board to consider all of the accomplishments that he took it upon himself to take on and accomplish, and the acts that he took while he was incarcerated, I think shows that he's turned a corner in his life and he's made a change for the positive. You know, Mr. Gaddy's got 2 brothers, one of whom was a very successful trial lawyer, plaintiff personal injury attorney, and Boulder. He was actually a state senator for District 36, Senator Ryan Gaddy is his brother. He's got another brother who was physical therapist, Robert Gaddy. And I think if Mr. REGAN GATTI had not fallen in with the individuals he fell in with, we wouldn't be here today, and he would never have done a day of prison time. But he acquired some bad habits. He was around some bad individuals, and he was party to a really bad crime, which, again, he makes no excuse for, nor do I. But I do ask the board to consider granting him parole. And if you do that, again, he's not going to be going anywhere other than federal custody. As a federal inmate convicted of bank robbery and use of a firearm during commission of crime of violence, he's not going to be serving a 43-year, 9-month sentence at a camp at Pensacola hitting a golf ball. He's going to be either in Pollock in a maximum security wing, or, I mean, they got a lot of bank robbery inmates housed at Leavenworth, Kansas. I'm not sure why that is, but several bank robbery, individuals I'm aware of. They get sent to Leavenworth. Wherever he goes in Federal Bureau of Prisons, it's not going to be a pleasant facility for him to be incarcerated in, but I have no doubt that if you grant him parole and he gets to federal custody, he'll do the same thing in federal prison that he's done in state prison. He'll work hard, he'll try to be an asset to the facility and to the warden and the staff of that facility, and we'll try to help other inmates. And if you got any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We appreciate it. And we will ask Warden Dozat. We'd like your input, please.
I don't have much to add that Mr. Johnson didn't cover. I mean, Reagan's been here. He's worked in several different capacities at the facility. He's always gotten really good work evaluations. He does, you know, his disciplinary record speaks for itself as far as his conduct goes. And he has completed, you know, just about every course that we do have to offer. So he's not any issue for us, and continues to do what he is supposed to do while here. So.
Warden Dozat, how long has he served in custody?
Since 2000,
Approximately 21.
2004,
I was in jail in 2003.
2003, so 21 years.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Byron.
Yeah, I think, I agree with Mr. Johnson. He did a pretty good job of summarizing the offense. However, you skipped one key part, is that after you went through the neighborhood and tried to hide in people's private homes, when confronted by the police a second time, you pulled another gun from your waistband and engaged in gunfire with the police again. The only thing that has those police alive today is that you can't shoot straight, because you sure shot a lot of times with different guns trying to kill them. That causes me a little trouble. But I just wanted to add that to make sure it was a complete picture. My first question.
Not to interrupt you, but I might point out, he was officer shot better than he did. He was wounded twice, and that is names. I didn't intentionally leave that out, but it was a lot.
Right.
There was a lot going on that day, and you certainly get it.
Yeah. So in 2013, I read that Borough County Warden made you a reentry mentor. Can you tell me about that? What did you do for them? And also, are you still doing that today?
He asked me about being a mentor.
A reentry mentor, and are you still doing that today?
Yes, sir. And I think it was in 2013 or maybe a little bit before, I became a reentry mentor at Angola. They have a large reentry program down there with a lot of schools. How it works is guys come in with a 2 or 3 year sentence, and then the guys like me that have more time, we teach them a trade so that when they leave from prison, they'll be able to support themselves without doing illegal stuff. That was probably where I found sort of like my calling. I was a mentor at automotive, and then I was the first mentor at the outdoor power equipment school when it opened. I helped with the HVAC and electrical schools, and then finally I was a mentor at the welding school. I left Angola and I came to David Wade, so I don't do that anymore. I'm on backlog now for the carpentry school that they have here.
And then look, you did a lot of classes, very, very good work in classes and training and Bible study and all the certificates. Very, very good work there. Commend you on that. But it looks like you stopped doing those classes in 2017. Is there any reason why you stopped in 2017, or am I missing something?
I think I was up until maybe 2 years ago. I was a mentor at the welding school. So I completed most all of the classes except for, I think, victims awareness, all the courses that were offered. And I was a mentor up until I left Angola and came to David Wade.
That was in 2017?
I think it was maybe I think I've been here for 2 years now. So it would be, do you know when
He's been here since June of 2022.
So I was an active mentor in the welding school at that time, so I was teaching class. I wasn't, going to class.
All right. That's all the questions I have right now. Thank you.
Questions? How's your health, Mr. Gaddy?
Ma'am,
How is your health?
I feel like I'm getting older. I'm having a lot of trouble hearing now. I got some aches and pains and arthritis and stuff, but I'm probably in pretty good health.
I asked that question. I saw you had a hospital trip, I think in 2020. That was COVID related, probably.
I'm sorry.
In 2020, you had a hospital trip. Was it COVID related?
No, ma'am, I cut my thumb open at the welding school.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned you did not take victim awareness. Have you done that since then?
Well, that was COVID related. I was enrolled in it and then COVID happened, so I didn't get a chance to finish.
And have you signed up for it again?
No, ma'am, I haven't.
Wow. Why not?
I should have. I didn't do it.
Okay. I think Mr. Prater has some questions.
Reagan, let me just ask you a question. When you were in the van and the police were chasing you and you were shooting the rifle through the window trying to hit the policeman, what was going through your mind?
It was just a bad situation, bad choices and bad decisions. And I really am sorry about that.
Why didn't you shoot at the tire or the engine block or something like that? Why were you trying to kill the policeman?
I don't have an answer for that.
And the same thing in the yard when you shot at two policemen there and you're trying to hit the police. Surely you remember what was in your mind.
Mr. Prater, I'm sorry. I just don't have an answer for that.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I have.
Thanks.
Mr. Prater?
Were you working at the time?
Were you working at the time?
Yes, sir.
Where at?
I was working for my father at his wrecking yard, and I worked for a automotive machine shop.
So I mean, what was the motive behind the robbery? What you needed the money for? Were you on drugs?
Yes, sir. I was using drugs at the time, but that's not an excuse.
Okay, that's good. But what kind of drugs were you using?
Drinking and cocaine.
Were you on drugs the day this happened?
Yes, sir. But again, I don't offer that as an excuse for my actions.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. No further questions.
All right. I don't see any other questions. Is the panel prepared to vote?
No.
Mr. Bob?
Well, Mr. Guy, today I'm gonna have to vote to deny your parole based on the serious nature of the crime and the multiple attacks on police and civilians involving guns. It's just hard to overlook the details of the crime. I believe that you have changed your life. I believe you're a changed man, but some of those details are just hard to overlook. And there's overwhelming opposition from law enforcement. So for those reasons, I have to vote to deny your parole.
Mr. Tillis?
I concur with Mr. Morris.
Mr. Prater?
I concur.
Mr. Freeman?
For the same reasons, I also concur.
All right, Mr. Gaddy, based on the strong opposition we have in the record, I do concur with my colleagues. My vote also is to deny your parole. So I want to congratulate you on the work that you have done and continue to do. I hope that you are able to continue to help serve others. Good luck to you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Warden knows that. I think that concludes our business. Thanks for accommodating us. We're going to sign off. It's 9:33.
Thank you. You have a good day.
All right, good morning. Committee on Parole is reconvening. We're at Louisiana State Penitentiary on Monday, July 8th, 2024. It's 9:41 a.m. There we go. My name is Cheryl Renatza, serving as chairman of today's 5-member parole panel. My colleagues on the panel today seated to my far left, Mr. Danny Byra, to my immediate left, Mr. Chucky Tillis, my immediate right is Mr. Steve Prater, and to his right is Mr. Pete Freeman. We are at DOC headquarters in Baton Rouge. I would like for the staff and Angola, please, to introduce yourself for the record.
Rochelle Ambo, Deputy Warden.
Reginald Latimore, classification.
Carmen Shipley, Offender Records.
Jody Sturgeon, Program Consultant.
All right. Morning. And our first case this morning is Mr. Cooley. Mr. Cooley, would you introduce yourself for the record, sir?
Yes, ma'am. My name is John Cooley,
What's your DOC number?
474961.
All right, that's what I have. And you have counsel with you this morning. I'd like for counsel, please introduce yourself for the record.
Good morning, Board. Adrienne Hutchison here on behalf of the LSU Law Parole Clinic. We have third-year student Mary Catherine Langley here with us also. She has assisted Mr. Cooley in representation today. She is not Louisiana Supreme Court Rule 20 certified, so she would need this panel's permission to read her opening statement and I would do the closing statement at the end of the hearing.
Okay, we have a little different format this morning, Ms. Hutchinson. We will first like to hear the attorney and the Mr. Cooley's presentation. So we'd like to do that first, and we'll conclude with our parole interview. So we would certainly like to have you can tell us, do you want Mr. Cooley to tell us his statement first, or would you or Ms. Langley like to go first?
Let's
we do him as well.
So let's let Ms. Langley do her opening statement, and then you can do Mr. Cooley, and then however else y'all want to take it from there, it's fine. But she's prepared an opening, so we'll let her do her opening.
Okay, great. So Ms. Langley, we'd love to hear your opening statement.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Mary Catherine Langley, and I'm assisting Mr. John Cooley as a 3L at LSU Law. After hitting what John describes as his rock bottom years ago, he faced his own reality, accepted the harm that he had done, and began on his journey to better himself. Through the work that John put into his own rehabilitation, a broken, lost, and angry man blossomed into a man who is godly, introspective, self-disciplined, and deeply passionate about helping others. For the sake of time, I cannot sit here and describe for you each and every accomplishment that John has earned during his incarceration. However, what I can do is give you the numbers. 45 is the total number of certificates that John has earned during his incarceration. 6 substance abuse programs, 2 of which took 15 months' time to complete, 6 behavioral programs, 11 educational and vocational programs, 5 faith-based programs, and 8 programs which John facilitates for other inmates. John has been a Newman mentor since 2021, a DOC mentor since early 2023, and he was recently approved for his Class B trustee status, exemplifying the trust instilled in him by Angola's administration. As a Newman mentor, John is able to dedicate his time and efforts back into the program that had such a life-changing impact on him. In this role, John found what he believes to be his purpose in life, helping others achieve and maintain sobriety and healing. John devotes his time to essentially being on call to help the program in whatever capacity necessary, whether that be escorting inmates in the program around the facility, facilitating courses, sharing his faith and knowledge in group discussions, or supervising men in the beginning stages of the program. Not only does this show his commitment and compassion for helping others, but it also demonstrates his steadfast commitment to his own rehabilitation. Since John's offense at the age of just 22, he has had much time for growth and healing, and statistically, his risk for recidivism has significantly decreased with his age. Coupled with his commitment to his own rehabilitation and the deep remorse he feels for his harmful actions, John does not pose a risk to society. He has a low Tiger score and a notably secure reentry plan. If granted the privilege of release, John plans to work at the Mississippi State Penitentiary, where he will continue the good work that he started right here at Angola. There, he will enjoy affordable housing, support from longtime mentors who are also employed at MSP, and an environment which will ensure his accountability, supervision, and success. It is said that the 4 goals of incarceration are retribution, deterrence, incapacitation, and rehabilitation. After serving 22 years and accomplishing much, it is clear that those goals have been served in John's case. He is well equipped and ready to give this parole board yet another success story, and he is hopeful for the opportunity to continue leading others to similar successes. I cannot adequately describe in such a short amount of time the remarkable man that John is, or the incredibly impressive work he has put into his own rehabilitation. But I hope through this interview, you're able to see the change in John that I've gotten to know over the past few months. Thank you so much for allowing me to give this opening.
Ms. Langley, well done. Mr. Cooley, before we move on, I wanted just to read some information into the record that I failed to do initially. And that's just your status. So you are classified as a second felony offender. You're currently serving a 50-year sentence. You were sentenced in October of 2004 for attempted armed robbery, aggravated flight from an officer, and as a habitual offender, armed robbery. Your parole eligibility date was March the 5th, 2024, and your good time release date was June 13, 2051. Is that information correct, Mr. Cooley?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
All right, we'd like to hear from you now. Tell us why you think we should vote favorably for you today.
I thank this honorable board for this opportunity to sit before you and express my rehabilitation and the remorse I have for the harm I caused so many people, particularly Ms. Johnson and Ms. Adams, their loved ones, the sheriff's department, and this institution, in the darkness that I was in at that time, that my ignorance, and I 4 years ago experienced a life-changing encounter, and drastically I went from a selfish person who hurt other people without any regard to or concern. I didn't know about responsibility to overnight just having this new mind, so surrendered to Christ, and he's renewed my mind and given me a new sensitivity to where I wanted to take accountability. And I hope that my rehabilitation and what I've done to help other people is a gauge of the remorse I feel for the hurt to communities, to this institution, to the Miss Johnson and Miss Adams and their loved ones, to my family, the hurt I've caused for so long, and that now I want to help people, and not just help people break the bondages of addiction and lead them to the kingdom of God, but inspire them to help other people so that they're not hurting people, but helping people. And the burden I've been on the state, I apologize. I apologize for that. I'm sorry. And I know, I think about now that the men and women who held me accountable, that put their lives in danger for my reckless, ignorant, idiotic acts, that was from my hurt and that I hurt others. I thank Miss Johnson and Miss Adams and the Sheriff's Department for holding me accountable, the courage they had to hold me accountable and to help me become this person that I am today. It was only through that my life was changed. I think this institution, I thank DOC for the 20 years, for every moment of it, because the person I was in despair in that time, and I was just in such a dark spot that the world seemed dark to me, and I was averse to the world, to God. I hated him, and the come through this has changed my life, and I want to be the joy to my loved ones, and the proof of possible what was impossible reform of character. I want to be a hope for those who labor with me, an example that if they surrender their lives and allow Christ to renew their minds, that he will renew their lives also. I want to be a light to those in darkness, those who are broken and lost. And I am so thankful for the support that I've had. For so many years, I tried to do it on my own, in my own thinking, and the insanity of me in the Louisiana State Penitentiary in a maximum security cell, thinking that it's everybody else's, they did me wrong, and to think that it's everyone else's fault. But the insanity of that, where I was then in that darkness, but to now realize that, to take accountability and to know the people I hurt and the people I put at risk, to know that Miss Johnson and Miss Adams may have insecurity and anxiety every time they go to a grocery shopping, or the family goes out, and the harm that I caused them. Just that has compelled me to be a change, that other people may be freed from their brokenness and not hurt people, but to help others. That's what I want to do, Ms. Manassa. I thank God for the support he has given me.
All right, well, thank you for sharing that with us. Warden Ambo, is there anything you want to add to the conversation?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Cooley has joined Sober Group. He's now a mentor for the New Men Group, which is helping other inmates here that are experiencing trouble with drugs, find a new way to cope with their incarceration instead of using drugs. He also has certificates in electrical. He finished level 1 and level 2. He's a facilitator for trauma and healing. He has a low tiger, and his last DB reports was 7/5, 2021. It was a rule 3 and 5, and he's a minimum B offender.
All right, well, thank you. We appreciate the information. Let me acknowledge the guests that Mr. Cooley has there with him at the penitentiary. We have your brother, Kenny Leslie, your sister, Star Parsons, your mother, Miss Sierra Cooley, and your friend, Sarah Gonzalo. And Sarah wants to speak on your behalf. We'd like to hear from her now.
Yeah, just that right there.
Just
okay.
Dear members of the Parole Board, my name is Sarah Gonzalo. I work at the Promise of Justice Initiative, and I have known Mr. Cooley for more than 4 years. I met Mr. Cooley when PJI started representing him in 2020. I was in charge of communicating with people who were incarcerated with non-unanimous jury convictions. From the first letter we received, Mr. Cooley stood out as someone who radiated hope and positivity. This was before Ramos had even been decided. His openness possessed the vulnerability of someone who has taken responsibility for their actions and works every day to better himself. Mr. Cooley was fully aware and open about the person he had been and the person he had become. He was brutally honest about his past choices. He was sincere about his remorse. He was courageous and committed to fight all habits as he continued to better himself. He was like that when I first met him more than 4 years ago, and he is like that today. When in 2022, the Louisiana Supreme Court denied retroactivity for the unconstitutionality of non-unanimous juries, a wave of despair hit prisons all over the state. I know I myself felt that despair. A few people stood out during that time, including Mr. Cooley, as a leader who understood that hope is a discipline. Mr. Cooley did not despair because he is committed not only to his personal growth, but the growth of others. Something changes to people who become committed to the well-being of others and begin to think beyond themselves. Mr. Cooley's energy is apparent to anyone who meets him. From him, I know that freedom from the bondage of drug addiction is dependent on the mental strength to want the freedom from that bondage. Mr. Cooley believes in community to accomplish this effort, and it is why he is so committed to people around him. Mr. Cooley has been saved by his Christian faith, and it is because of his deep faith in Christ that Mr. Cooley believes all things are possible. He has moved from not seeing a reason to better himself to actively working on helping others find that same faith and light. One of the things Mr. Cooley has talked to me the most about is his work at the New Man Ministry. Mr. Cooley is both invested on and proud of the work he does as a minister and a facilitator. He also often talks about what doing the work has done for him. He's one of the people making teddy bears that are then sold to raise money to purchase books and offer materials for each class cycle and to provide for the needs of the ministry. I have learned a lot about humility, acceptance, perseverance, and patience from Mr. Cooley. He has been a guiding light for me, and I believe he will be a guiding light for others once he re-enters society. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. We appreciate your remarks. We'll go to the folks who are here with us on Zoom. First from the Parole Project, Mr. Myers.
Good morning, Kerry Myers with the Louisiana Parole Project. I can tell you that the Parole Project is prepared to support Mr. Cooley in his reentry through our residential reentry program, where we'll provide him with the tools he needs and the reentry mentoring that he needs after 20 years of incarceration. If prison is one goal is incapacitation, we would all hope that the other goal is rehabilitation. In this case, prison has worked. Mr. Cooley has shown by his work, by his change of behavior, by his character, that prison has worked for him. You know, while the opportunity is there, it's always up to the individual to take that opportunity. And Mr. Cooley has shown that he not only wants it, he did something about it, and he's committed to it. He has a reentry plan beyond Parole Project, and you'll hear from that in a second. He does have an opportunity to go to Parchman and work for the Mississippi Department of Corrections. And we would just ask this board to consider all these factors in granting his parole today.
Thank you. And we have with us Mr. Robert White.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Ms. Renata. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
All right. So if I could describe John Cooley in one word, I would have to say authentic. I lived with John in an extraordinarily intense environment when we started the New Men Ministries to help men who just couldn't get it right. And the number one facilitators and the number one mentors that could reach the roughest people were the people that themselves had once been, as John said, the biggest idiots. And so John applied himself. I worked with him for years. I brought him through different programs. I was a pastor to him. I mentored him through the New Men Ministries. And I've never seen anything other than total devotion and dedication to what he's doing. So I'm working now as the director of the New Orleans Seminary Extension Center and also as a correctional program supervisor out here at the Mississippi State Penitentiary. So what I would love to do, if this board decides to grant John a chance, I will do everything that I can to see that he's out here with us and doing the work that he's already become excellent at, that he can do it here with these guys as well. So I can't really overstate. I know that the metrics that this board has to consider go far beyond personal testimony. But I would ask you to just consider that if we see a man's pro-social behavior go off the charts, and we see his rehabilitation go off the charts, and we see all of his criminogenic behavior patterns go to zero, then that's the kind of guy that I would love to work with out here. And so if you give Mr. Cooley this chance, I would appreciate it. And I'll do everything I can. I'll support him in any way that I can. And thank you for this time and allowing me a chance to speak.
We appreciate your remarks. All right, Mr. Cooley, your case has been assigned to Mr. Tillis, so he'll take the lead on the interview. Would you answer any questions he may have?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Tillis. I'm nervous, but that's great.
Yeah. How long have you been incarcerated? How long have you been incarcerated?
Since September 1st of 2001.
2001.
Yes, sir.
That's in Louisiana?
I've come to Louisiana, extradited in June of 2002.
So you were incarcerated when you were in Mississippi?
Yes, sir. I was arrested in Mississippi from the aggravated flight from my officer's charge, arrested in Mississippi, and then extradited over here in June of 2002.
I read through your case and you've done well with a lot of changes. So you've already stated a lot what you've been doing while you've been incarcerated. It's very good. What do you plan to do if you're granted parole? What would you like to do? Are you planning to work or what?
Initially, we'll go to the parole project, and while there, the peer support supervisor, STR, will work with me to become certified as a peer support specialist as a 2-week class. While I'm there, I'll attend Healing Place Church service. I'll take part in community service while there through Lori's nonprofit, that's the peer support specialist. And also Dr. Webb, who wrote a letter from me, will fly in from Atlanta. He's originally from Baton Rouge, and we will do outreach while there as I complete the Louisiana Parole Project's reentry program. From there, I have a job, several jobs open to me, but I aspire to go into the Mississippi Department of Corrections and Parchment and work with the men there to help break those bondages and again to as a peer support specialist to help in that role as a minister to show that to be the example. Beforehand, I didn't understand responsibility, but now the responsibility I had to the communities, to Miss Johnson and Miss Adams, the responsibilities I have to my families, as a changed man, and as a follower of Christ, the responsibility I have to those who look to him is that if a person will just get rid of surrender their old way of thinking and allow him to renew their mind, that he can renew their life. I want to be that example. And me and Dr. Webb, he does podcasts for JPay and Secure Us that's seen throughout the DOC across the country. And so I just don't want to just work with MDO, but also help everybody, because so many men have been broken and all broken and blame the system and blame so much and just hurt other people, hurt their families, hurt the institutions and the communities
I understand you stated that earlier. Did you, how far did you go in high school? Or did you get your degree or something, college? How much education you have?
I received a GED, then 1 year of college, and I've taken several correspondence courses from Blackstone Career Institute as a paralegal, in trade schools with electrical and VOTEC. I'm certified electrician. I'm certified in automotive technology, and certified as a legal assistant.
Did a lot, you received a lot. I have no further questions.
Right. I have some questions, Mr. Cooley. You mentioned 4 years ago is when the light went on for you. Why did it take so long?
In coming in, thank you for this question, Ms. Renata. At my arrest, I was so, from a child, broken. And at my arrest, I was rebellious. And I apologize to the state for wanting to go to trial.
Well, I'm gonna get to that question. I'm gonna get to that question too.
Yes, ma'am.
So you just say it's because you were a young, immature kid.
And I had distorted thinking. I was angry and bitter.
So what changed? What made you change in 2020? What was it?
Thank you, ma'am. When I went into, I sought help, and Mr. Hyde did a Celebrate Recovery that I did not take full advantage of because I didn't exercise the steps. In my mind, my thinking and intelligence, I'm thinking I don't need to confess to other people what I've done. And so I didn't take advantage of those. But when I reached out, in New Men Ministry, I thank this institution for allowing that program. I went in there and I seen men who were like me, remarkably different now. I knew them because I'd been here years with them, but now they was remarkably different. And they were sacrificing the resources, their personal resources, their time, all of their energy to pour in to help me who's broken and help me who's just a despicable person to help me when I didn't deserve that. But in to help other men, that opened my eyes up to the message of the cross, and I came to believe in Jesus Christ.
Well, now don't preach to us, Nina. I appreciate your faith, but don't preach it.
So that was what happened.
That happened all in 2020, and you got the write-up in 2021. Tell us what happened with that write-up for the 3 and the 5.
Yes, ma'am. I had a desire, I changed my life, but my thinking still needed to be changed. I still had triggers that I hadn't known about.
Would you tell us what happened specifically though?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I wanted to go to the yard. We have a designated yard for New Men Ministry away from, and I had a memorandum to be able to go to the yard. I asked the officer in charge of that unit, and I was told no. So in my entitlement, I felt I still had an issue with entitlement. I felt like I was supposed, now that I'm doing right, I was supposed to be able to do these things that's allowed to me. And so I wanted to speak to a supervisor, and I went to the supervisor who told me no, and I realize now with humility that and me and him, we talked and afterwards, and I apologized for I had an issue with authority. And so when they told me no, and when I just want to do right, and that I
Understand,
had
okay.
a problem, ma'am.
I got some more questions. I got enough on that one. So tell us then, I want you to describe your involvement in this crime. What did you do to land you in jail? Specific.
I approached Miss Johnson with a firearm. And I robbed her for a car. And 2 days later, I was with another person and I was fully with him, responsible with him, as he approached to rob Miss Adams of her car. And he ran and I picked him up and try to help him idiotically, as if we'll ever get away from police. I fled from the police, and I see now I put their lives at danger. Innocent citizens just traveling the highways that they are put at danger. I think back to the times that anybody could have been harmed in a car wreck. I think back to the officers whose families may, God forbid, that they would have been injured.
So let's see, you mentioned just a minute ago, you wanted to apologize to the state for wanting to go to trial. Weren't you offered a plea agreement deal?
Yes, ma'am. I was offered 15 years, but
why did you go to trial?
I was just selfish and criminal thinking. I did not want to take any responsibility for anything I did. Again, I just.
Did you think innocent of the charges at the time?
Breaking up.
And you refused the
plea?
No,
ma'am. I knew I wasn't innocent. I just, in my criminal thinking, I didn't want to take responsibility. I wanted to try to fight the charges.
Okay, I understand. And you mentioned you want to go to Mississippi. Have you prepared a interstate compact agreement?
Yes, ma'am, we have.
Has that been approved?
Not as yet. We're waiting.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have. Y'all have any questions?
I just got one question. Mr. Knotts hit on most of it, but what was the aggravated flight? What happened during that flight that made it an aggravated flight?
I was on the highway going over I was going at approximately 100 miles per hour on the interstate, and I swerved around a 18-wheeler. I went off of the road to get around the 18-wheeler, and I believe that's the two conditions that would have caused it. But I was in a.
That's all really I needed to know. I needed to know what the aggravated flight was. So there wasn't no swerving at police trying to run off the road?
No, sir. Nobody was ran off the road. It was just that I went off the road to try to get around an 18-wheeler.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just curious, one question. 3 times you were charged on your disciplinaries with intoxication since 2020. And none since 2021. What was those tell me about those intoxications. What was it you were getting at jail that was intoxicant?
Synthetic marijuana. Thank you. So, synthetic marijuana.
Okay.
What they call mojo here.
Okay, and I said one question, but a follow-up would be, I know you took AA, was completed in 2018 and Celebrate Recovery in 2019. And then since those times, you had these intoxication charges. How do we know that if we grant you parole, how do we know that you're going to, quote, celebrate recovery once you're out? If you couldn't abide by the rules somewhat recently, but I won't, I know you have this one date or a particular date when you say things straighten out in your mind, and I appreciate that, but how do we know you're not going to go back into an addiction?
I really appreciate this question, Mr. Prater, because it's a part of what I use to help men who's gone through it myself, because as I stated earlier, I didn't exercise the steps. One of the steps is that you confess to God, to yourself, and to somebody else about your hurts, habits, and hangups. And I felt like, why do I need to confess to another person about what I've been through or what I'm going through? And I didn't rely on that one right there, that step. And so I never made it in my recovery. And once I came into this ministry and I was fully surrendered to it, and I exercised the step, former pastor, Walter Goodwin, who went home, we sat together one day and we cried as I shared with him some of the stuff from my childhood, and to be able to speak about these things out loud to somebody else, I processed it differently. I recognized triggers of instability from my childhood, from when my sister died and from my parents' divorce, and that these.
So that's you touched the bases that I wanted to hear, and I'm satisfied with your response to that. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions? I think there's no more questions. So Ms. Hutchinson, you want to wrap it up for us?
Yes, board, thank you. And I hope y'all can hear me. I'm a little hoarse today. But I think that Mr. Cooley has done well at articulating who he is today and how he got to that point. One of the things that Mr. Cooley and I spoke about, and that really stands out to me, is that while we all know that hurt people, Mr. Cooley lives by the phrase that healed people heal people. He's shown his commitment to change and his commitment to others. He's acknowledged that he's made a plethora of mistakes over the years, and that in 2020, he decided to make a change. And within that change, he detoxed from the drugs that he was on, and he went on to do trauma healing and celebrate recovery as a person committed to change. He's gone on to help others and lived in a sobriety dorm. He's taught classes and helped facilitate classes to help others and change. He's articulated that he understands all the victims harmed by his crimes, and what that looks like for them in the community and for their loved ones. I know there was some concern about how he would maintain his sobriety if he were to be released. But I think that his commitment to both the Louisiana Parole Project and to Parchment would place him in the same community that has helped him be successful since 2020. Also, as the board has done many times, if the board would like him to have additional substance abuse with a long-term program before release, we're completely willing to do anything the board deems necessary. I think that Mr. Cooley has shown that he has a strong reentry plan and family support, and that he's made the necessary changes. He's taken accountability and wants to help others. He has a strong plan and strong support systems in both Mississippi and Louisiana. And so we just come before the board today asking that you release Mr. Cooley with any additional terms that you all feel necessary, or any additional classes that you may think he needs before he leaves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is the panel prepared to vote? Mr. Chase?
Mr. Cooley, I read your file about 3 times, and probably 3.5 times. The DA, the police department, and the sheriff all opposed. I commend you for the effort you've done. You've really done and changed. It seems like you have remorse. At this time, I'm going to have to vote to deny.
Mr. Parole?
Today, I'm going to vote to grant you parole based on the testimony and your behavior while in jail, program success that you had while in jail, the support system you set up for release, and your low risk assessment. Also that upon release, you would follow a substance abuse program, and talk to school children lined up by your probation officer about the bad mistakes you can make and where they end up.
Mr. Prater?
I'd vote to. This is a tough one, because I think you've changed. My question is, have you served enough time to where society has been paid their due and that you are going to stay on the straight and narrow? And I think after 21 years in jail, is that right? You've been in jail since 22? Okay, I would vote to grant.
Mr. Freeman?
It is a tough one. Mine came down to the same reason as Sheriff Prater. Have you done enough time? You've obviously done enough things in prison. I mean, you've taken all the classes you can. You've helped others as much as you can. You got a good job to go to in Mississippi. Mr. Myers, I'm sure y'all will put him through a complete evaluation. And I would also add a condition that you attend 3 AA meetings a week. That can be done at the institution, and it can be done by you leading the meeting. Okay? That's my vote today.
To grant. Mr. Cooley, I too, I think you have a solid transition plan. It would be to vote conditioned upon that you do go to Mississippi after you do the parole project, with the same special conditions that have already been mentioned. In your case, it does require unanimous vote. So you've received 4 favorable votes. 1 vote was not in your favor. So today your parole is being denied, sir. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
October 11/15, 11/30.
Looks like it'll speed up.
All right, we're ready for Mr. Thompson. I can't see them on the screen. They turned the camera. There they are. All right, Mr. Thompson, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number, please.
Donovan Thompson, 424-528.
Y'all go to the back and take that.
All right, Mr. Thompson, my name is Cheryl Renatza. You have a 5-member parole panel today. Seated to my far left, Mr. Danny Byra. To my left is Mr. Chuck Tillis. To my immediate right, Mr. Steve Prater. And to his right is Mr. Peter Freeman. I want to acknowledge the folks you have there with you in the room, family members. And I have that Miss Katrina, Tramika, and Johnny will be speaking on your behalf. We'll call on them at the appropriate time to do so. First, let me read some identifying information into the record, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson, you're classified as a 3rd felony offender. You're currently serving a 75-year sentence. You have a 2004 sentencing date for possession of cocaine. You were given probation that was revoked in March of 2005. Another sentencing date in July of 2005. Unauthorized entry of an inhabited dwelling, injuring or killing a police, the dog. Simple escape type 1 as a habitual offender, and then possession with intent to distribute cocaine as a habitual offender. Your parole eligibility date is February 26, 2024, and your good time release date is March 15, 2068. Does all that sound correct to you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so Mr. Thompson, our format today is we'd like to hear from you first, for you to tell us why you think you should be considered favorably for parole. We'll hear from Warden Ambo, and then from those who are there with you who want to speak on your behalf. And then we'll start our interview with you before we vote. Okay? So why don't you tell us why you think we ought to vote favorably for you today?
Well, I've changed. I was young when I come to jail. I was 22, 23. And I was kind of wild. And since then I've been here. They gone?
I think they're video in it. So they'll let you know if they want you to talk.
Warden Ambo?
Yes,
Can you hear us?
we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Okay, we're gonna see if you can put us back up. Can you still hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
Still can't see us though, huh? There we are.
Yeah.
See us still?
We see you now.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson, we had some technical difficulties, so why don't you start over and tell us your story?
Yes, ma'am. I was a young man. I was 23. And I had been going through stuff after my mama had passed. And, I was trying my best. And I ended up getting in trouble and made it here.
Well, why do you think we ought to vote favorably for you today?
Because I have changed. I'm not the same person I was years ago. And I want to do better. I have my family support me. And I'm not the same.
Okay. Is that all you'd like to say to us?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Warden Ann, is there anything you want to tell us about Mr. Thompson?
Mr. Thompson has, did victim awareness, the 100-hour pre-release. He's a medium custody, offender, but he has a tiger, low tiger. He has no substance abuse treatment.
I got substance abuse. He just,
I don't have the certificate.
yeah.
No GED. And he also completed anger management and thinking for a change.
Okay, good. Thank you for that information. All right, Mr. Thompson, we'll hear from your family members now. Could we first hear from Miss Katrina Richardson, your sister?
Hi, I'm Katrina Richardson. I'm Donovan Thompson's sister.
All right.
We just ready for him to come home. Oh, they not ready?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we miss him. We ready for him to come home. Back then, we were all going through stuff, but we're all better now. A lot of us own our own business. We have somewhere for him to come work at. We feed the homeless every Christmas. We try to do a lot, and we want him to come and help us with that. So I think I know he's a changed man. He was young and wild, but I know he's changed now.
Okay, thank you, Miss Richardson. Tramika Mullins is Mr. Thompson's niece. We'd like to hear from you.
I'm Tramika Richardson. I'm his niece, and we grew up together, and we've been through a lot. But I know he didn't change too as well.
Well, he's lucky to have your support. And we have Johnny Richardson, Mr. Thompson's nephew. Sir, we'd like to hear from you.
Yes, ma'am. Johnny Richardson, I'm his nephew. And I just feel like he a changed man, you know, talking to him on the phone, he reading magazines, just he positive. He whole different person from back when he used to speak. So, and like Miss Katrina said, we all have businesses now. We got somewhere for him to work, somewhere to stay. I mean, me and her flip houses, so got a lot of, construction work. So, like I say, just talking to him, I can hear and I can see that he's a changed person and he ain't the same person he used to be. I mean,
We just asking that y'all give him a chance. Give him a chance to prove himself.
Thank you. Your case, Mr. Thompson, has been assigned to Mr. Freeman. Is there any questions you may have?
Okay, Mr. Thompson. First off, tell me a little bit about all of these escapes. You kicked out the window, kicked a policeman in the face and ran away. You got to a courthouse for a court hearing. You pushed a girl, said you had to go to the bathroom. You pushed an officer and ran out the courthouse and got caught in the drug. I mean, what was going through your mind with all these escapes and stuff?
well, most of the time the first one with when I ran out the courthouse, they had a judge who was standing in for my original judge. And so, I had just caught a new charge. And so I had went to the back and I failed a drug test. And so when I come back and he stood in front of him for the drug test, he said, you failed a drug test. And I said, yes, sir. But this is a new charge. And, I was thinking he was going to show me some leniency, but, he said, well, we're going to send you to jail for 6 months or 90 days or something. And, I just kind of got scared and kind of panicked.
So you took off running. Okay, tell me a little bit about this police dog. You stabbed the dog several times. What was going on?
I didn't really stab the dog, but when the police come in the house, I was kneel down in the corner and I had a knife. I was feeling suicidal that day and I was kneel down, I was never, in place to stab the dog. So when the dog was trying to stick the police was trying to stick the dog on me. But the dog, by me kneel down, the dog wouldn't attack. So the police picked the dog up and threw him on top of me. So somehow I fell on the knife and the knife broke. And then after that, they all jumped on top of me. So I don't never remember stabbing the dog.
Dog was stabbed several times and it was cut in the eye. Okay, were you on supervision when this happened?
No, sir.
Okay. How old were you at your first arrest, your first juvenile arrest? I got 11, is that correct?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, you was arrested for aggravated battery. That's what you had your first charge in 1991.
Yes, sir.
You had a pretty long juvenile record, and you fled from police one time as a juvenile. So that's not real good, but and pretty lengthy adult record. What would be different this time?
Well, I've grown up. I have a grown daughter now. And, you know, I just want to do what's right for my family and everything for them, you know, and for myself and for.
What was your job at the prison?
Sir?
What is your job at the prison?
Oh, healthcare auditor.
A what now?
Healthcare auditor.
Okay, you're a nursing aide 3, I
Nursing aide,
think?
yeah, nursing aide.
And you also were a tier walker at one time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we appreciate those two things because that's very hard to find in prison.
Yes,
people help other inmates.
I've been.
Did you ever finish your pre-release phase 2?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, Ms. Sambo?
Yes, sir, he finished it.
Okay, thank you. And you really started taking a lot of classes in 2023. What was the best class you took?
Thank you for a change. It put a lot more in perspective of what I already kind of knew. You know, it just made me realize that I was missing out on a lot of stuff. So it kind of put more in perspective of what I need to be doing and what I need to be thinking and all this.
And why were you in lockdown from 2006 2012? Was that because of the escape?
No, yeah, it really is that, and they say I was a threat to security, and it had me behind on a lot of stuff.
So 2006 2012. And okay, where are you gonna live?
Yeah, I got a family house that I'll be staying in with my niece.
And what
in Baton Rouge.
What's your sobriety plan? How you gonna stay sober?
I could take a few classes, AA, and they got a place on government I've been to before. If it's still open, but they had a place on government.
Have you had any mental health any mental health problems? Any evaluation, Warden?
No.
According to his target and stuff like that, he was currently in treatment at one point.
At one point, but he's not now?
No, sir.
He's on no medications?
No, sir.
I have no further questions, Mr. Knott.
Mr. Craig?
Yes, Mr. Thompson?
Yes, sir.
I got just a couple of things. In 2021, you had 2 write-ups for contraband. What was the contraband?
Cell phone.
Cell phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now then, people that we have that come before the parole board and seeking something for us to do. The one thing they are uniform in is their sympathy for and admission of what they've done wrong and who they've hurt.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Yes, sir.
I'm hearing this, you're charged with having stabbed a police dog, but you don't even admit to doing that. You say the knife broke and the dog just accidentally must have rolled on it or something. Tell me about that.
Yeah, like I just, like, you know, I was I had the knife. You know, I am sorry for what happened because I caused it, because I ran and all that took place by me doing what I did. So I'm sorry for that. And it was more like a bruise or something, because I remember the knife breaking on the floor. And then I just, by the dog had bit me in my face. The dog bit me in my face and my ear. So I might have, when I did, the blade was broke though. So I might have, when the dog, so I was laying down and the dog bit me right here in my ear. So, you know, something it could have happened then. You know, I take full responsibility for it because it was, I caused it to happen. You know, I'm sorry for that. But,
So you're now, after all this, are you admitting that you stabbed the dog?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I take full responsibility.
Well, you know, part of what we have to do here is to make a decision on how you're gonna do once you get out. And here I'm having to pull this out of you about the stabbing the dog. It just happened is the way the first story you told. And I don't want to argue with him about it because that's not our place to do. But I don't see the remorse in your voice and in the way you tell the story or your admission of your involvement in it. Anyway, that's all I got.
You had a question?
Yeah.
Mr. Timmons.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes, sir.
You said, I heard you say that when the police came in, you were on your knees.
Yes, sir.
They told you to get on your knees?
Ma'am, sir?
They told you to get down on your knees?
No, I was already down, like I was like down in the squatting position. Wasn't on my knees. I was in the squat position.
And you say they threw the dog on you?
Yes, sir.
Did the police officer physically throw the dog on you? He physically threw the dog on you to make him attack?
He didn't attack.
But I'm saying when they threw him on you, that's when the dog bit you and all that?
That's how you get to bite me in my face.
When he threw him on you?
Yeah.
Are you sure the policeman threw him on you?
Man, I was right there. I was near down.
Because I could see the response. If somebody throw a dog on you that bites you, you probably had a natural response to it. Did you?
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Why didn't you try to get your GED when you were in?
When I come out the cell in 2012, I went to Camp D. So they put me in the field back there. So I made it to the main prison at the end of 12. So I signed up, but I never was put in, I was backlogged for school.
Okay. How long have you been serving?
Sir?
How much time have you served?
20 years.
You've been in 20 years?
Yes, sir.
And how many classes or certificates did you receive?
4.
4 in 20 years.
But I did like 6 years in the cell before.
I got you. I have no questions anymore. Thank you.
All right. I don't have any questions. Mr. Tillett's covered my questions, so is the panel prepared to vote?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Thompson, no, the bottom line is that you aren't taking total responsibility. You have a terrible escape history. And you have law enforcement and victim opposition. My vote today is to deny.
Mr. Byram,
I'm gonna concur with Mr. Freeman for the same reason.
Mr. Tillis,
I'm gonna vote to deny also.
Mr. Prater.
Deny for the same reasons.
All right, Mr. Thompson, I think you got some more work to do. You know, you spent a long time in the cell block and you haven't apparently been given the opportunity to work on your GED. I think that's critical for you. You're very lucky to have your family support there with you. I'm going to vote with my colleagues to deny with strong encouragement that you do ask Warden Ambo there to help you get in the GED classes and take some more classes and reapply when you're eligible to do so. You get some of that behind your belt. I think that maybe you'll have a different outcome next time we see you. Good luck to you, sir. But today your parole is being denied. I think that is our business at Louisiana State Penitentiary. Warden Ambo, we're going to sign off at 10:47. Thanks for helping us out today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got a lot of people did that.
All right, Collins. Let's go. Mind shutting that door?
All right, good morning. Committee on Parole reconvening. We're at RAYBURN Correctional Center on Monday, July 8th, 2024. It's 11:01 a.m. Good morning, Warden. Would you and your staff introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Warden Travis Day.
Carolyn Thomas, record supervisor.
Lacey Kennedy, classification. All right, thanks for accommodating us today. And we have before us Mr. Collins. Good morning, Mr. Collins.
Good morning.
Would you introduce yourself to the panel? Tell us your name and your DOC number.
James Collins, number 89162.
Mr. Collins, let me introduce the parole panel to you. You have a 5-member panel today, and the vote is requires a unanimous vote. My name is Cheryl Renatz. I'll be the chairman today. Seated to my far left is Mr. Danny Barra. To his right is Mr. Chucky Tillis. To my right, immediate right, is Mr. Steve Prater, and to his right is Mr. Pete Freeman. So, Mr. Collins, I'm going to read some identifying information into the record. I'm going to ask you to confirm it, and then we'd like to hear from you after that. We'd like to hear your statement to the panel and why you think we should vote for you today. We'll ask the warden for his comments, and then we'll start our parole interview with you. You ready? So, in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to speak. Mr. Collins, you're classified as a 5th felony offender. You're currently serving a 37-year sentence. You were initially sentenced, your first sentencing date I have is September 8, 1998 as a habitual offender for distribution of cocaine. You received a 30-year sentence. You have another sentencing date on February 17, 2017 for habitual second battery of a correctional officer. You received 7 years. And intentional exposure to the AIDS virus, you received 7 years. Those are running concurrently, but consecutive to the 30-year sentence, which is why it's a total of 37 years. You have a parole eligibility date, which was February 17, 2017, and you have a good time release date, August 20th, 2034. Does all that sound correct?
Does all that sound correct?
Something, they lose some, they kind of like lose me with some of it, what they're saying. Cause I was given credit for time served.
Yes.
Even on the other 7 years, there was rank consecutive. And it was,
you were given 252 days of jail credit. So we're not going to talk about sentencing, Mr. Collins, because we don't do that. We don't do the sentencing. But the time calculation. I do see where you have 262 days of jail credit. So the information that I've given you is on your master prison record. So let's move on. And if you have any issues with your time calculation, the folks there at RAYBURN are who you take that up with, not us. Okay?
Okay.
But do you agree you have a 37-year sentence?
Oh,
Do you agree that you have a 37-year sentence?
that's what they said, yeah.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Collins, why don't you tell us why you think we should vote to grant your parole today?
I have something that they call absence seizures. And where, in that case, I don't know where I'm at all the time.
So you think that's why we should grant you parole?
Why should they grant you parole? And why they should grant you parole?
I'm not really what they're saying. I'm just showing one picture, but that's not me. The real me, no, that's not me. At least I'm being truthful. That's not me. I try to do right. I try. That don't mean that I'm out. I'm not even gonna say I'm perfect, but yeah, I do the best I can.
Okay, well, okay, so your case has been assigned to me, so let me, first I'm going to ask the warden, is there anything you want to tell us about Mr. Collins before we start our interview?
Mr. Collins and I spoke last week and went over his record and, you know, talked about some of the issues that he had, from getting locked up, from the issue he had back in 17 and, you know, told him that it was going to be a tough time. You know, he is a good offender here. I do always see him in church. Here recently, I've gotten him into the mental health department to be able to talk with them about some issues that I may see here. But all in all, he's a decent offender here, day in and day out. His disciplinary since 18 really hasn't been bad at all.
All right, well, good, thank you, and I appreciate you getting him the services he needs.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Collins, let me just ask you a few questions. I don't have many. I read the record. I want you to be aware that you are, as we stated, you're a 5th felony offender, so there is opposition to early release for you by law enforcement and others, including victims. Let me just go over briefly your criminal history. You have prior arrests and convictions, armed robbery and illegal possession of stolen things. That was way back in 1979. Illegal possession of stolen things, 2 counts in 1983, 1990, illegal possession of stolen things again, and distribution of cocaine in 1998, which is why you're in jail now. So tell us what was going on in your life when you were involved in all that criminal activity.
Don't robbery. It's just, it's a long story with that one. I'm trying to think about with these other things.
You don't remember that? You don't remember all those?
I do remember parts of it, cause they come pick me up. And I was brought to a facility and they say, yeah, were you supposed to have been did this? And I said, yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. What's the situation? And they hold me, and then they tell me, look, do this, and then that's, you gone. I said, all right, here. And I just do it and just come on away from them.
All right, so why don't you tell us about programs that you've taken in prison?
Your programs that you've taken.
I've been in numerous programs since I've been here. I've been here since 98. They had, at that time, they had, but you had alcohol abuse. They had it different than the way they got it now.
Are you enrolled in any classes now?
In any classes now?
No, I'm supposed to have been completed. Everything.
So what's your job? You got a job?
What do you do?
We own, well, I'm saying we own this, it's really family.
No, in here, what do you do in here? What's your job in here?
Right now, I'm just cleaning up a dormitory, but I was keeping people at one time. I used to push them around.
Okay.
Well, I worked at the warehouse for a little while. I worked in the kitchen. I don't know.
So tell us what happened in 2017, battery of a correctional officer.
That wasn't 2017. That was 2012.
Oh, that was 2012. You just were sentenced in 17, right?
Well, I was working. They woke me up. They told me they needed somebody in the kitchen. So I went to the kitchen 5:30 in the morning. When we got ready to come out the kitchen, somebody had lost a utensil and I got stuck in the kitchen. So I'm waiting to get out of that. By the time I did get out, it was about, I guess, 5:30. Then I had spent 12 hours, but it was time for me to go to church. So I went straight to church just like I was. And then the guy that I push him around. And I pushed him onto the church. And on the way coming back, well, they supposed to have been at search my locker or something. So they said I had stolen goods or something. And I didn't have no stolen goods.
What'd you do to the officer?
Huh?
What'd
Well,
you?
I didn't even see him. Cause I didn't know who it was. They kept telling me, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Robinson. I'm trying to figure out who he is. I didn't know who he was until later, yeah. When I went to court, then I figured out who they was talking about. Cause I didn't know.
What did you do?
Other words, when I'm out, when I went through a day, I made it through that day some kind of way working. And when I'm trying to get my job done, I put my best up in there. I'm trying to make sure that everything go right. But once I get back, I'm trying to lay down and relax. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what that medicine is for, to make me go to sleep. But I was kind of like, oh, I didn't even really know what happened.
All right, we have the report, Mr. Collins, so I just wanted to get your story, your recollection of it, but we have the report. We know what happened. We know you bit the officer. We know you were aggravated and angry and uncooperative during when they were talking to you about the search of your items. So you mentioned programs. You know, I see pre-release, I see anger management, some living in balance and victim awareness. Tell us what you learned and got out of the victim awareness program, specifically as it relates to the battery of a correctional officer.
I learned a lot because my mother was shot and killed when we were a child. I've been numerous things concerning violence. Yes, I learned plenty. And I knew a lot about it. And yeah, I seen it, other words. But for as me doing those type of things, that's something that I did not want to do. I didn't want to have no part of it. And if I could do something, I would do something to help somebody, not to hurt nobody.
I don't have any questions. Mr. Collins, any other questions?
Did you bite somebody? Did you bite someone?
Yes. That's what they say. Yes.
Why did you bite that person?
I didn't even know who it was. Somebody had his hand around my mouth. I'm trying to figure out who that is. I didn't even know who he was. I didn't see him until I still didn't see him afterwards.
Okay. So you admit okay, that's all right.
Mr. Fowler.
You bit more than one officer, correct?
No.
You actually bit 3.
No.
Well, I know you probably don't remember because it's a long time ago, but I'm looking at your disciplinary report and it says back in April the 8th of 2009, you bit Lieutenant Chancey Olvik on the forehead and left collarbone when you had an altercation with him. And also on January 16th, 2006, you bit Sergeant Mickey Guidry on his right hand when you had an altercation with him. So I'm looking at looks like about every 3 years you bite somebody in jail. I was just wondering, what's the point of all this biting? Why are you biting these people?
These bites and stuff that they're talking about, I don't some of it. Now, that last one in 2012, I kind of halfway, I didn't see the person, but somebody's neck was arm around my neck. The other 2, I don't know nothing about it. That's part of the seizure that I have. In other words, the federal judge explained that to them. If you allow me to come on your grounds, you're responsible for me because I don't know where I'm at. This is why I'm taking this medicine. I have absence seizures. blackout. I don't know where I'm at all the time.
I understand. That would explain it. Thank you.
So, Mr. Collins, if you were paroled, where would you go?
Where would you go if you're paroled?
Where
What's
would
your
I
plan?
go right now? Well, I would be in New Orleans, but I got a sister in Carolina. I could have went to one of them. I got people in Florida. I could go over there. I got people in Texas. I got people everywhere. I
So
got
where's your
some in
family
Europe.
today, sir? Mr. Collins, where's your family today?
Where my family is at?
Yeah.
The main part of my family?
No. Why aren't they participating in your parole hearing is what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, it's supposed to be New Orleans. That's what they say, what, they say it'd be better just go right back in the state of Louisiana. I
Yeah,
say, okay.
Why aren't your family on this call today? Why aren't they in the parole board hearing today?
I haven't spoken with none.
He has very few visitors, and hasn't visited them lately.
And well, my sister wanted to come up here and visit me, but they real estate agencies and one of them is working in a bank and they got all kind of stuff. They and other stuff. The other one is a judge.
Okay, Mr. Collins, I don't think we have any other questions of you, and I think we're prepared to vote, and I'll be voting first. I think you got some more work to do. I'm really pleased that you had the conversation with Warden Day, and he's getting you some services that I think you need. I'm glad you're on the proper medication for your seizures. I just don't think you're ready for parole today. I don't see any family support. I don't see any transition plan for you that's going to convince me you're going to do well. You're a fifth felony offender. So my vote today, sir, is going to be to deny you parole.
Okay.
Mr. Byron?
I concur with Mr. Knotts for the same reasons.
Mr. Tillis?
My vote is to deny.
Mr. Prater?
Concur, deny.
Mr. Frank?
My vote is to deny.
All right, Mr. Collins, you've got some work to do. So do what they tell you to do. And, at some date when you're eligible to reapply again, we encourage you to do that. Keep your conduct record clean. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank y'all.
For today, that concludes our business. We're going to sign off at 11:19. Thank you.
James.
Good morning. The Committee on Parole is reconvening. We're at Franklin Parish Detention Center. Today is Monday, July 8th, 2024. It's 11:20 a.m. And Mr. Hamilton, good morning.
Good morning.
Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and your DOC number.
My name is Darrell Eugene Hamilton, 53-1977 is my DOC number.
All right, Mr. Hamilton, you said Darrell, that's how you say your first name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me introduce the parole panel to you. My name is Cheryl Renata. Seated to my far left, Mr. Danny Byron. To my immediate left, Mr. Chucky Tillis. To my immediate right is Mr. Steve Prater, and at the far end is Mr. Pete Freeman. You do have a 5-member parole panel today, so any parole favorable decision requires a unanimous vote. First, let me just read some information into the record, Mr. Hamilton, see if what we have is correct. Mr. Hamilton, you're classified as a 3rd felony offender. You're currently serving a 14-year sentence. You were sentenced, you have a 2014 sentencing date, aggravated criminal damage to property and resisting police. 2018 in March, possession of methamphetamine, possession of hydrocodone, possession of heroin, obstruction of justice, and resisting police. And then most recently in March of 2022, contraband. You have a parole eligibility date, which was November 14 of 2023, and your good time release date is December 9, 2029. Does all that sound right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Before we start our parole interview, Mr. Hamilton, we'd like for you to take a few moments just to tell us why you think we should vote to parole you today.
Okay. I have bettered myself while I've been incarcerated, and I have did a couple of programs, to help me to be good with society out there. And I have jobs and stuff lined up with my dad and my sister. And I have been working on doing the right thing. I haven't been getting in any trouble. I was currently enrolled up in the STEP program, but they had took me out of there to get more people here to make room so they can evaluate the new people, but I never had got back in the class. I don't know why. I don't know what the holdup is, but like I said, though, I have bettered myself and I have been doing the right thing and staying out of trouble most and foremost.
All right, well, good to hear. Your case has been assigned to Mr. Prater. Would you answer his questions, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Hamilton. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. And yourself?
I'm doing good. I was looking at your 5th felony offender, and I was looking at your extensive criminal background. That's where we start. And then we work our way into what good you've done since you've been incarcerated. I'm troubled by the amount of arrests that you've had. I'm troubled by the fact that since 2004, I count 16 times that you've been charged with resisting arrest or battery on an officer or battery on someone. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so the last time was in 2021, which wasn't long ago, and they were investigating some contraband or something, or investigating something, and it appears that you stabbed another inmate, Robert Nevins, that you stabbed him. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It was a fight that went on. Yes, sir, and it led to other things.
Okay. I noticed also that one judge is opposed, one of the sentencing judges is opposed to you getting out. 2 DAs are opposed and 2 sheriffs are opposed. And I'm curious, why should we, with the limited number of programs you've had, why should we think that in the span of 3 years, you're going to quit beating up people and you're going to abide by the law and you're going to quit resisting arrest if you come in contact with law enforcement? Convince me that you're going to change, that you've changed.
Yes, sir. I have to stay out of the streets for one. And I have to do the right thing for my nephews and nieces and upcoming siblings that's coming up. And I have a daughter that I haven't been in her life in years due to the fact of me coming to jail. So I really got to do the right thing or to step up to the plate and be a man, And I really think that I learned my lesson on this one.
And I'm done with the life that I used to live. And I don't think I'm gonna go down that road again. Like, if I come in contact with any officers or anything, it's not gonna be because of me getting in trouble.
Okay. That's all I got.
Any other question?
How long have you been incarcerated? How long have you been incarcerated?
I've been incarcerated like 8 years, almost 9 years, since 2016, sir.
And you say you're trying to take some more classes to better yourself?
Yes, sir. Like, I was up in the STEP program. It's like numerous of programs into one. And like, they took a lot of us out of there because we went through the enrolled and we went through the orientations. We went through the whole steps of everything that we needed to go through. And they needed to make room for more inmates coming from other facilities. They needed to make room for them. And so, like, they moved us out of there and told us we're going to start back in a certain amount of days. But they never moved a lot of us up there. They just started the new people that came in contact with the jail. But I got anger management and pre-release from St. Tammany Parish Jail, from my parish. I got that as the programs that I have.
So how far did you attend your education?
Up in the 10th grade, sir.
Have you tried to get your GED while you were there?
Yes, so I was working on that. I had signed up for that that's in the STEP program, your GED diploma and all that. I signed up for that one too.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Oh, Mr. Barra has a question.
Do you have a problem with probation and parole officers?
No, sir.
The reason I ask is that you've been on 10 periods of supervision and 7 of those 10 got revoked. And in the last round, you got in a fight with parole officer Everly in the bathroom, I guess at your house. Looks like to me that you do have a problem with parole officers, but you're telling me you don't.
It's not really a problem. It's just like that time that I did that time. Like, that time I did have a fight with him because I didn't want to go back to jail, and there was all sorts of things that was going on in my life at the time. But
So
I don't really.
What are y'all fighting about in the bathroom?
Just excuse me.
What are y'all fighting about in the bathroom?
Oh, I had drugs, and I was trying to disclose the drugs, so I'm trying to get rid of them, basically.
That's the only question I have. Thank you.
All right. I think we are prepared to vote. Mr. Prater will be voting first.
Okay, Mr. Hamilton, because of your lengthy criminal history, because of all the opposition, because of not just your lengthy criminal history, because we run into people that had a lengthy criminal history, but then they hadn't done anything since 2004, 2005. But in 2021, you stabbed an inmate while you were incarcerated. Stabbing an inmate, having contraband, that tells me a lot that you're not there yet. You've got some work to do. So I vote to deny because of the lengthy criminal history and opposition, and the simple fact that you hadn't proven to me that you're going to follow any rules. But you're doing good since then. I don't know why you don't have any write-ups since 2015. That seems awfully strange. It seems strange that there's no write-ups. I think that's the institution's, maybe, I won't say anything about that. I don't know why that is. So I think you're on the road. I don't want you to be hopeless. Okay. And you said some things that meant something to me, but just having served 3 years for stabbing somebody, in addition to your lengthy criminal history, I think you need some more work tonight.
Mr. Freeman?
I agree. I enjoyed your interview, though. You're very smart, man, and you have stayed out of trouble for 4 years. But we need a little bit longer than that. So my vote today is to deny, but to encourage you to keep working.
And Mr. Barra?
I'm gonna vote to deny for the same reasons that Mr. Prater and Mr. Freeman.
And Mr. Tillis.
I concur.
Right, so I do agree that you have some more work to do. I was impressed by your interview today. Seems like you're being, forthcoming with us, but you have some more work to do, and I think you're in a place where you can get it. So my vote today is to deny with the, encourage you to reapply when you're eligible to do so. Good luck to you, sir.
So when is the next time that I can reapply?
We're gonna send you a letter that's gonna tell you all that information. We'll send that to you.
All right, and I can I need to be at a facility where I can get these programs, because they say these programs finna shut down after August 1st here.
All right, well, we'll do what we can to help you out. We're gonna adjourn.